If you were told that, like, saving the world literally required you to willingly open the gates of hell,
Oh, man.
right, would you actually do it? Welcome to the fireside, everybody. Come on in, sit down, share the warmth. Today we are looking at a squad of heroes who who just found out their holy prophecy is actually this massive demonic trap.
Total nightmare of a trap.
Exactly. This is a deep dive into the chronicles of the Shattered Veil, and we're setting this right at the precipice of the end of the world. So look into the flames here with me and picture these figures from our legend. Their skin bears this faint, pulsing purple glow of prophecy.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, but that glow, it isn't a blessing anymore. It's a target.
It really is. And I mean, it's this profound psychological pivot from where these chronicles began, right? The stakes, they're no longer just these abstract ideas of good versus evil. The threat is literally written into their flesh.
Yeah.
And to understand the desperation of the battle we're analyzing tonight, we really have to look at the revelation that completely broke them.
Right, right. Let's trace the path that led them to this exact moment. So I have the notes here on the events in Duskmere. We're following a very specific, kind of eclectic group.
To say the least.
Seriously. There's Welsies, this steadfast dwarven paladin, Etenimus, a half-elf warlock who is, walking a razor-thin moral line, Aaron, a human ranger carrying some seriously deep grudges, and Bip, this halfling rogue who basically views locks as mere suggestions.
I love Bip.
Right. Classic rogue. So according to the text, they were digging through the dragon-scorched ruins of Duskmere, totally believing that a willing sacrifice would permanently seal the demonic gate that's threatening their realm.
But then they uncover something entirely different.
Yeah, they find out the sacrifice doesn't close the lock. It turns the key.
Which just completely shatters the foundation of their entire quest. I mean, the prophecy actually demands a sacrifice to release the greater demon, Gormack, into the mortal plane.
It's insane. Everything they thought they knew about their cosmic duty was just a lie, manufactured by the very forces they were fighting.
Right. And rather than being granted even a minute to grieve that revelation, the universe just immediately throws them into a meat grinder.
Oh, absolutely. I was reading about their escape from those ruins, and it sounds like pure chaos. They tried to retreat using this clandestine smuggling portal, but the magic just buckled under the strain.
Yeah, too much pressure.
Exactly. It scattered the party across the sprawling, pirate-choked streets of Port Zarford, which led to this bizarre event the chronicles refer to as the Painted Prison. And I have to admit, I'm a bit confused by the mechanics of this.
What's up, meetings? Yeah.
Yeah, they found their missing allies. Howl the Bard, Jebediah, Tucker, and the sorcerer Zora trapped inside living canvases.
How does a magical painting actually hold a physical person?
Well, it's a terrifying bit of arcane manipulation. So the foppish cultist running this prison, he wasn't just a painter, right? He was using this dimensional folding technique.
Dimensional folding?
Yeah. The magic literally compresses a three-dimensional being into a two-dimensional stasis. So to break them out, our heroes couldn't just, slash the canvas, because that would kill their friends.
Exactly. They had to physically reach into the arcane oil paint and pull them back into the third dimension. The records describe Welsies literally pulling an ally out.
Yeah.
And the person just poured onto the floor in a vibrant puddle of ink.
Oh, wow.
Before snapping violently back into flesh and bone.
The sensory whiplash of that must have been just staggering. But they did pull it off. They survived. And that sets the stage for our main focus tonight.
Right.
11 heroes are finally reunited. They're catching their breath in what they think is the safety of an upscale tavern called the Gilded Galleon. But we know from the texts that this safety shatters almost instantly.
Yeah, completely.
We're going to follow a fractured strike team on a descent into the volcanic city of Ashwillow, culminating in a brutal ambush in a garden of stone.
And all of this is forced upon them by what is essentially a masterclass in psychological warfare. Because while they're resting, trying to catch their breath, Gormack, the demon lord, he mobilizes. But he doesn't send an army to the tavern. He sends simultaneous, synchronized visions directly into all of their minds at once.
And the details of these visions are just haunting. I mean, they see the demon's 4 generals scattered across the realm.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
First is the Mouth in the frozen north, this colossal figure towering over a subjugated village. But the villagers aren't screaming or running. They're just trapped in this monotonous drone repeating, "Truth is what is spoken. Truth is what is repeated."
Total psychological subjugation.
Yeah.
Just a complete dismantling of free will.
Exactly. And then the vision violently rips them away to Mistwood, where they see the Eye. The texts describe it as a beholder working in a magical laboratory, promising that the veil between worlds will soon tear.
So creepy.
But whenever I see the term beholder in these old texts, it always sounds so abstract. Like, what kind of threat is a beholder, really?
Okay, so think of a beholder as a creature composed of pure, weaponized paranoia.
Weaponized paranoia.
Yeah, it's this massive floating orb covered in eye stalks. And each eye emits a completely different frequency of reality warping magic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so one eye can project an anti-magic cone that just shuts down all spells entirely, while another eye can literally disintegrate solid matter, and another can induce paralyzing terror.
So having a creature like that actively working to tear the fabric of your reality?
It's an existential crisis on its own.
And yet the visions keep coming. They see the Hand in the fiery city of Ashwillow, a massive Goliath in heavy armor, holding a civilian by the neck in front of a crowd of pirates.
Such a brutal image.
He roars, "Loyalty is not given," and the broken crowd just screams back, "Loyalty is taken!" right as his greatsword falls.
Brutal.
And then the final broadcast. Azuriel, the dragonborn warrior who is an ally battered and hiding in a cave from a fire giant, begging the vision, "Are you coming to find me?"
But the chronicles actually reveal a fifth hidden vision here.
Right, the secret one.
Yeah. This one entirely isolates Atenimus, the warlock. His dark demon patron basically bypasses the group broadcast to send a highly specific, sinister command just to him.
Wait, what does it show him?
The patron shows Atenimus a thief in Ashwillow who has just stolen a magical earring of prophecy belonging to Hal the Bard.
Ah, okay.
The command is absolute. Atenimus must travel to Ashwillow, murder the thief, and retrieve the ring. And the patron explicitly orders him to let absolutely no one get in his way.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because Gormack is essentially launching like a distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS attack on their morality.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
He's flooding their collective conscience with so many simultaneous crises that their unified front just crashes. It's like a dealer forcing a terrible hand of cards. But my question is this Gormack taunting them, or is the prophecy itself forcing them to split their forces? Like, why do they fall for it?
Well, what's fascinating here is the strategic nightmare of it all. Because Gormack knows exactly what levers to pull, right? Think about the hardest decision you've ever had to make when a critical project falls apart.
Yeah, triage.
Exactly. Now multiply that by the end of the world and add a dying friend, literally begging for your help. They are morally compelled to divide their strength to save Azuriel.
I mean, they finally have 11 capable fighters in one room. Dividing their forces seems like tactical suicide.
It does, but 11 people marching together is an army, not a covert strike team. You simply cannot sneak an army into a fortified stronghold to a fascinated general like the Hand. They are forced into a terrible pragmatic triage. So they break into 3 teams.
The ultimate divide and conquer, executed by their own hands. So one team heads out to save Azuriel from the fire giant, another stays behind to gather intel. And we follow the strike team, Walsies, Aaron, Atenimus, and Zora.
Right.
They're heading straight into the sulfurous heat of the Fire Islands to assassinate the Goliath general in Ashwillow.
And Ashwillow is definitely not a place that welcomes heroes.
Yeah.
It's this sprawling den of cutthroats built directly into an active volcanic chain. They actually like to use clandestine underground portals run by the Wave Guild just to get a foothold in the city.
Yeah, the atmosphere is just oppressive. The air is literally burning their lungs. And the stronghold they are targeting is called the Iron Crown.
Fitting name?
Very. The texts describe it as a dark iron fortress suspended directly over a bubbling lake of lava anchored to the surrounding cliffs by massive glowing chains. So brute force is completely off the table.
Totally off the table.
They consult a map of hidden smuggling routes and realize the lava beneath the fortress has cooled in certain spots, so they can bypass the heavily guarded main bridge by essentially rock climbing across the underside of the chasm over liquid fire.
Which sparks a planning phase that just perfectly illustrates how deeply their backgrounds clash.
Yeah.
Like you have Zora, who was born into high elven nobility but is now this hardened wild magic sorcerer. She suggests they just use standard hempen adventuring rope to tie themselves together for the crossing.
And Welsies, ever the grounded, pragmatic dwarven paladin, shoots that right down. He points out they are in a dwarven settlement and suggests they purchase professional, heavy dwarven climbing gear.
Which makes sense.
It's incredibly practical. But then, my favorite part, Bip, the halfling rogue, returns.
Yes.
He had been tracking the stolen ring independently, and the trail brought him to Ashwillow. So he detaches from the shadows, looks at Wellesley's proposed climbing gear, and immediately vetoes the heavy metal puttons.
Which is such a rogue thing to do.
But why veto the safest gear they could possibly buy?
Because of the acoustic signature. A piton is a metal spike that you have to drive into solid rock with a heavy iron hammer.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The sound of hammering iron into stone, echoing over a canyon right below a fortress filled with guards. You're essentially ringing a dinner bell for your own execution. So instead, Bip insists they use chalks.
Now, I'm not a climber at all. What is the mechanical difference there?
So a chalk relies entirely on the natural geometry of the rock face. It's basically a shaped piece of metal on a wire. You find a crack in the stone that narrows at the bottom, and you slide the chalk into the wider part, pulling it down into the constriction.
Okay, I can picture that.
Yeah, so when weight is applied, the friction and the wedging action lock it into place. It requires zero hammering. It is completely 100% silent.
That is brilliant. Bip's street smarts just instantly alter their entire approach. He even demands they take the rooftop route through the city to reach the chasm in the twilight.
Right.
But this highlights an absurd physical mismatch in the group. Because Wellesley's, this vanguard fighter, is wearing enchanted adamantine plate armor. As they creep across the roofs, Bick whispers that Wellesley's is stealthy as a box of ringing bells.
And that is a very, very accurate assessment. I mean, adamantine is a fascinating material in this lore. It's an ultra-dense, magically resonant alloy designed to completely absorb critical kinetic impacts.
So it's great for taking a hit.
Oh, it will save your life from a crushing blow. But that incredible density means the armor plates grind against each other with this deep metallic resonance every time you move.
Here's where it gets really interesting, right? You're essentially trying to sneak a thunderstorm through a library.
That's exactly it.
I always wonder how a group like this survives. You have a rogue who thrives in absolute silence, paired with a paladin who is literally a walking acoustic beacon.
Well, they survive because their friction breeds pragmatic teamwork. They aren't this squad of flawlessly synchronized elite assassins. They're desperate survivors.
Right.
Wellesley's doesn't let his ego as a holy knight force them to march through the front gate. He knows he's a liability in the shadows, so he lets the halfling lead, and he follows in his exact footsteps. They cover each other's fatal flaws.
And they need every ounce of that caution, too. The rooftop trek is agonizingly slow, but they finally drop down near an unguarded gate leading to the fortress bridge.
And the scene changes here.
Yeah. The text described the area as being framed by massive ornamental stone garden figures. The air is still. Everything is completely quiet.
Which is always the first indicator that you've walked directly into a trap.
Exactly. The silence shatters. 5 assassins literally melt out from the shadows behind the stone statues. They were waiting for them.
They knew they were coming.
Yeah. And in the dim volcanic light, Wellesley's locks eyes with one of them, and it's the very thief who stole Howell's Ring of Prophecy. Wellesley's readies his weapon and growls, figures he would be messing up our plans.
It's just a brilliant ambush, and it immediately puts our heroes at a massive disadvantage.
Oh, totally. Reading the battle logs, our heroes take an absolute beating in the opening seconds. A crossbow bolt flies out of the dark and drops Zora to her knees before she can even cast a protective ward.
And Aaron gets hit hard, too.
Yeah, he's caught in a flurry of blades and is severely wounded almost instantly. Why do they perform so poorly right out of the gate?
Well, because they are fighting under an extreme acoustic handicap. The pirate army of the Iron Crown is only a few hundred yards away. If our heroes unleash their most explosive, devastating magic...
Like a fireball or something.
Exactly. Like a thunderous smite or a roaring fireball, the entire fortress will descend on them. They are forced to suppress their power. They are trying to win a fight to the death without waking the neighbors.
That perfectly explains Zora's counterattack. Heavily bloodied, she pushes through the pain and unleashes a barrage of magic missiles.
Right, very smart.
Because rather than raw explosive fire, magic missile is a spell of pure, localized kinetic force. It creates glowing darts of energy that silently home in on a target, delivering precise, crushing impacts with a very low acoustic footprint.
Precision really is their only hope here.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron the Ranger, he follows suit. He draws his magical oath bow and whispers a sworn enmity to the assassin leader.
Now, the mechanics of an oath bow are fascinating to me. It doesn't just fire an arrow, right?
No, not at all. When the wielder swears an oath against a specific foe, the bowstring channels that focus hatred into raw kinetic tension.
Oh, wow.
So when Aaron releases the string, the arrows don't just pierce, they deliver a concussive shockwave upon impact. The logs show the arrows hitting the leader with enough force to completely shatter his sternum, dueling devastating trauma without the deafening boom of explosive magic.
But while Eren and Zora find their rhythm, Welsies is seriously struggling. He swings his massive great axe, which he famously named C-3PO, by the way.
I love that detail.
Yeah, he swings it wildly in the dark, missing every single strike. How does a seasoned paladin miss every swing?
It's all about physics and footing. Remember, he's wearing incredibly heavy adamantine armor, fighting on uneven ornamental stone pathways covered in volcanic ash.
Right.
If he swings that massive axe and hits a stone statue by mistake, the ringing sound of steel on stone will echo across the chasm and alert the fortress.
Oh, so he's holding back.
Exactly. He is constantly pulling his swings at the last microsecond to avoid striking the environment, which just completely throws off his entire center of gravity.
Which leaves Atenemus in a terrifying position. Bip, doing what rogues do best, vanishes completely into the shadows to strike from a flanking position. But by disappearing, he leaves Atenemus exposed to two deadly assassins at close quarters.
And Atenemus takes a brutal hit. He's bleeding, forced to weave desperately through the stone statues.
The chronicles describe him firing eldritch blasts point blank just to keep the assassins back. And for those unfamiliar, an eldritch blast isn't a refined spell like Zora's magic missiles.
Oh, it's messy.
It's a raw, tearing bolt of chaotic force granted directly by his dark patron. It is pure, unadulterated magical violence. The garden descends into absolute chaos until Zora finally pushes her wild magic to the limit and drops the assassin leader to the stone.
But here is where we really must examine the deeper philosophical shift in the Chronicles. Because if we connect this to the bigger picture and look closely at Atenemus...
Right, the pact.
Yes. Remember his dark pact? His patron didn't suggest he retrieve the ring. The patron commanded him to murder the thief and let no one interfere.
So what does this all mean? I was wondering about that. In the chaos of the garden, did Atenemus actively fulfill that dark pact, or was he just fighting to survive alongside his friends?
The line between righteous survival and fulfilling a dark pact just completely evaporates here. Yes, they get the magical ring back, but look at their actions in the immediate aftermath.
That's grim.
It really is. To hide the evidence of the slaughter and ensure the fortress guards don't discover the bodies, these so-called heroes drag the corpses of the 5 assassins to the edge of the chasm.
Yeah.
And they push them over the ledge, watching them sink into the bubbling magma below.
Talk about a reality check. Pushing bodies into a volcano to hide your tracks. You are definitely not the shining knight on a white horse when you are disposing of evidence in a lake of fire.
Precisely. This is the moral decay of the apocalypse. High-minded ideals are a luxury you can only afford when you aren't bleeding out. The universe has completely stripped away their noble posturing, forcing these champions of light to commit brutal, hyper-pragmatic acts just to survive another 10 minutes. They are doing whatever the mud and the ash demand of them.
And that brings us right back to the image in the fire. The skirmish in the Garden of Stone is over, but the larger mission is in absolute shambles. The team is battered. They're bleeding heavily. Most of them are barely standing.
Half health at best.
Yeah. They are huddled together in a dark, sweltering, sulfur-choked alley in Ash Willow, and looming directly above them, suspended on those glowing iron chains, is the Iron Crown where the Goliath Hand of Gormack is still waiting.
I want to leave you with a chilling thought regarding that magical ring they just recovered. We know from earlier texts that Howl's earring of prophecy is drawn to exciting things, right? It tracks the best stories and the greatest sagas.
Yeah.
The assassins stole it, and possessing that artifact brought them directly into this brutal near-death collision with our heroes.
Wait. If the ring actively seeks out the most heroic, harrowing sagas, does that mean it acted as a magnet for the Embered?
Exactly. It raises a terrifying question about the nature of their reality. Does fate actually want our heroes to bleed?
Oh, wow.
Does the universe require them to be pushed to the absolute brink of death time and time again just to spin a legend worth remembering? Is their suffering literally the fuel that powers the prophecy itself?
That is such a haunting concept to carry into the dark. Does the veil demand their blood just to tell a good story? I want you to think about that as the embers die down tonight. When the end of days clock is ticking loudly in your ear and you are bleeding out in a dark alley with your enemies looming above, do you retreat to the shadows to lick your wounds, or do you march directly into the fire? Thank you for sitting by the hearth with us for this deep dive into the Chronicles. Until next time, watch the shadows and beware the purple glow.